On March 7th, 2025, a woman in her early 60s pulled into my shop in a 2019 Toyota RAV4 Hybrid, clutching a dealership estimate for $4,800. The dealer said her hybrid battery was failing. She had 94,000 miles on the car. She babied it. She followed every service interval. She even parked in the shade. And yet the dealer told her the battery pack was degrading fast and she needed to start planning for replacement within the year. She sat across from me nearly in tears, asking the same question I have heard 100 times. What did I do wrong? Today, I am revealing the one Toyota hybrid setting that is silently destroying battery packs across the country. Drivers press this setting every day, thinking they are helping their car, helping the environment, and saving fuel. Toyota engineers built it for a very specific and very limited purpose. Almost nobody uses it the way it was designed to be used. By the end of this video, you will understand why turning this off tonight could add years to your hybrid battery and save you thousands of dollars. Here is the uncomfortable truth the dealer did not tell that woman. Her battery was not defective. Her driving was not wrong. Her maintenance was not the problem. The problem was a single button on her dashboard that she had been pressing for 5 straight years, convinced she was doing the right thing. I have been working on hybrids since the second-generation Prius rolled into shops in 2004. I can tell you without hesitation that the #1 cause of premature hybrid battery degradation in modern Toyotas is not age. It is not mileage. It is not even climate, although heat matters. It is driver behavior triggered by a setting most people do not fully understand. Once you see how this actually works inside the battery pack, you will never touch that button again unless you absolutely have to. Here is what nobody explains when you buy a Toyota hybrid. The high-voltage battery in your car is not like the battery in your phone. It is not designed to be fully charged or fully discharged. In fact, it is engineered to live its entire life inside a very narrow window, roughly 40 to 80% state of charge. That window is not a suggestion. It is a survival zone. Toyota's engineers spent years calibrating the hybrid system to keep the pack inside that band no matter how you drive, no matter how hard you accelerate, no matter how steep the hill. The car itself manages the charge level constantly, balancing the engine, regenerative braking, and the electric motors to keep the pack healthy. Why so narrow? Because nickel metal hydride and lithium-ion cells, the two chemistries Toyota uses in hybrids, degrade fastest at the extremes. Charge them too high, and you stress the cathode. Discharge them too low, and you risk cell imbalance, heat buildup, and permanent capacity loss. Every trip outside that 40 to 80% window takes a tiny bite out of the pack's lifespan. You will not feel it. You will not see it on the dash, but the battery remembers. Every deep cycle gets recorded in the cells themselves. Now here's where the setting comes in. On the dashboard of nearly every modern Toyota hybrid, from the Prius to the Camry hybrid to the RAV4 hybrid to the Highlander hybrid, there is a button labeled EV mode. When you press it, the car promises to run on electric power only. No gasoline, no engine noise, pure silent motion. It sounds wonderful. It feels futuristic. It feels like you're finally using the car the way it was meant to be used. And that belief is exactly what destroys the battery. EV mode was never designed for daily driving. Read Toyota's own owner's manual carefully. EV mode is intended for low-speed, short-distance use inside parking garages, on residential streets late at night, or any situation where silent operation matters more than efficiency. That's it. Toyota specifically warns that the mode disengages automatically when battery charge drops too low, when you exceed a certain speed, or when the climate system demands too much power. The car is telling you, sometimes multiple times per trip, that this is not how the system wants to operate. But drivers do not listen. They press that button out of the driveway and try to keep it active as long as possible. They treat EV mode like a badge of honor. They compete with themselves to see how far they can go before the engine kicks on. And every single mile they drive in forced EV mode is pulling the battery deeper into territory it was never meant to live in. Here is what actually happens inside the pack. When you force the system to run electric only, the battery discharges far below its comfortable operating range. Instead of hovering between 60 and 70%, it might drop to 30% or even lower before the engine finally overrides the driver's request. At that point, the gasoline engine has to kick on hard, not to propel the car, but to recharge the pack quickly. That sudden recharge at high current puts thermal stress on the cells. Then the cycle repeats. Drain, panic charge, drain, panic charge. Over hundreds of trips, this pattern accelerates cell degradation dramatically compared to the gentle, shallow cycling the battery was engineered for. I have seen hybrid packs that were driven by EV mode enthusiasts lose 15 to 20% capacity by 80,000 miles. I have also seen packs driven normally, without anyone pressing that button, still holding nearly full capacity at 180,000 miles. Same car, same climate, same maintenance, completely different outcomes. The only variable was driver behavior and that one setting. The woman with the RAV4 admitted it immediately when I asked her. She pressed EV mode every single morning on her way to work. She lived about 4 miles from her office, and she took pride in trying to make the entire commute without the engine starting. In the summer, she would crack the windows instead of running the air conditioning because she did not want to drain the battery faster. She was torturing her pack every single day, thinking she was being an exceptional hybrid owner. This is the part that makes me angry on behalf of every hybrid driver out there. Toyota does not clearly explain this. The button sits right there on the dashboard, looking inviting. There is no warning in large print that says, "Use sparingly." There is no pop-up on the infotainment screen telling you that extended use reduces battery life. The system simply disengages when it cannot take any more, and the driver assumes the car just needed a little help from the engine. Meanwhile, the damage compounds quietly in the background. And it gets worse. Many drivers pair EV mode with another misunderstood setting, the B position on the shifter. B stands for engine braking, and it is designed for long downhill descents where you want to slow the car without riding the brakes. But drivers see it and think it must stand for battery or brake regeneration. They shift into B mode on the highway. They leave it in B during their morning commute. What B mode actually does is spin the engine as a brake, burning fuel without propelling the car, and in many conditions preventing the regenerative braking system from capturing energy efficiently. Combined with forced EV mode, you now have a driver who is simultaneously draining the battery deeper than intended and preventing it from recharging efficiently through regenerative braking. It is the worst possible combination for pack longevity. Now, I want to be fair. EV mode is not evil. It has legitimate uses. Pulling quietly out of a driveway at 6 in the morning so you do not wake the neighbors. Creeping through a parking garage where the engine echo would be uncomfortable. Moving the car 20 feet in a drive-through. These are exactly the situations Toyota designed it for. Short, low-speed, low-load use where the battery barely notices. The problem is not the button. The problem is the belief that pressing it more often means driving more efficiently. It does not. In fact, the opposite is true. The Toyota hybrid system, left alone in its default mode, is one of the most efficient drivetrain algorithms ever engineered. It decides thousands of times per second, when to use the engine, when to use the motors, when to charge, when to coast, when to regenerate. It accounts for your speed, your throttle input, your battery state, your climate load, and even the temperature outside. Every time you override that intelligence with a button press, you are telling a sophisticated system to ignore its own calibration and do what you want instead. And what you want is almost never what the battery needs. The fix is embarrassingly simple. Stop pressing the EV button. Let the car decide. When you start your Toyota Hybrid in the morning, just put it in drive and go. The system will run on electric power whenever it can, which turns out to be far more often than most drivers realize. At low speeds, at stoplights, during gentle acceleration, when coasting, your car is already in electric mode most of the time. You just do not see it announced with a green light on the dash. The computer is doing it automatically, efficiently, and within the battery's safe operating window. If you want to take this further, there are 2 more habits that pair with disabling EV mode to extend battery life dramatically. First, do not shift into B unless you are actually going down a sustained hill. For everyday driving, leave it in D and let the regenerative braking system do what it was designed to do. Second, do not let the car sit in ready mode for long periods while parked. If you are waiting in a parking lot, shut the car off. Leaving it in ready keeps the hybrid system active and can cycle the battery unnecessarily during climate control operation. And here is the final piece that most drivers never hear. The hybrid battery cooling fan, usually located behind the rear seat or in the trunk area, needs airflow to keep the pack from overheating. If you pile luggage against it, if pet hair blocks the intake vent, if you never vacuum that area, the fan cannot do its job. Heat is the second greatest enemy of hybrid batteries after deep cycling. A blocked cooling vent combined with aggressive EV mode use is a recipe for a pack that dies at 100,000 miles instead of 250,000. 5 minutes with a vacuum every few months can literally add years to your battery. The woman with the RAV4 listened to all of this. She asked if the damage was permanent. The honest answer is that battery degradation is cumulative, and you cannot undo what has already been done. But you can stop adding to it. I scanned her battery pack. The cells were weaker than they should have been at 94,000 miles, but they were not failing, not yet. The dealer had exaggerated the urgency to sell a $4,800 replacement that was not needed for years. She drove away that afternoon with a set of instructions written on an index card. Do not use EV mode unless you are parking. Do not use B mode unless you are descending. Keep the rear vents clear. Trust the computer. 6 months later, she sent me a message. Her fuel economy had actually improved. Her battery health indicators looked stable. No warning lights. The car felt normal again. Nothing mechanical had changed. She had simply stopped fighting her own vehicle. That's the real lesson here. Toyota hybrids are engineering marvels. They can run 300,000 miles, 400,000 miles, sometimes more, with their original battery packs intact, but only if the driver respects how the system was designed to work. The moment you start overriding the computer with buttons you do not fully understand, you are writing checks the battery will eventually have to cash. So tonight, before you drive anywhere else, sit in your car, look at that EV mode button, and commit to not pressing it unless you are in a parking lot or a driveway. That's it. One small behavioral change. No parts, no tools, no money spent. Over the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, that single habit could save you thousands of dollars in battery replacement costs and keep your hybrid feeling the way it did the day you bought it. Because here is the final truth most drivers never accept. Your Toyota Hybrid is smarter than you are about managing its own battery. Every time you trust the system, you are helping it. Every time you override it, you are hurting it. The engineers who built this car left EV mode on the dashboard not as a reward for good drivers, but as a tool for specific situations. Using it like a daily feature is like using a fire extinguisher to water your plants. It works technically, but you are destroying something valuable in the process. If this changed how you think about your hybrid, hit the like button so other Toyota owners see it before they pay for a battery they never needed. Subscribe for more hidden settings, silent killers, and mechanic-level knowledge that dealerships hope you never find out about. And if you have been pressing that EV mode button every day, drop a comment below and tell me how long you have been doing it. Your story might save someone else's battery. Because the most expensive hybrid problem is not the one that breaks your car. It is the one that breaks your trust in the technology you already own. And now you have the knowledge to protect both.